Hello, welcome to another episode of Mr.A tutorials. Today we are learning how to create this isometric view from these orthographic projections here. Feel free to pause the video here if you want to take a picture of the dimensions. We're going to do something special here in order to make sure that this drawing fits on our sheet of paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide all of these units here by 16. So for example, here, the diameter of this circle here is 16. We're going to divide that by 16 to make the diameter 1. You see this right here is 32. So this right here will be divided by 16. So this measurement here will be 2 inches. This measurement here will be 2 inches, and so on and so forth. Some of them are going to be 2.5 inches. For example, this one right here, 40 divided by 16 will be 2.5 inches. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm going to start from this corner right here, and then I'm going to go up 2 inches. Why am I going up 2 inches? Because I can tell here from my side view that the height right there is 32. If we divide that by 16, it will be 2 inches. So I'm going to go up 2 inches, and then from this corner over to where this line ends before the curve starts, if I read that right here, it would be 36. So if I divide that by 16, that will give me 2.25. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, I'm going to grab my 30-degree triangle, and I'm going to draw a vertical line and a line that goes 30 degrees in this direction right here. I'm going to start here in the middle of my paper. I'm going to go vertical. Again, right now, it doesn't matter how long this is. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to come back later and dimension it. So that vertical line I said was going to be 32. That's divided by 16. That equals to 2. So let's go ahead and make that 2 inches. Now let's go ahead and make this line here 2.25 inches. We can erase any extra that we don't need. Next up, we're going to go ahead and we drew these two lines here. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, 2.25 inches. And then this line back here, if we look right here, it's 40. So that's this line back here. So we divide that by 16, that should give us 2.5. So we're going to go 2.25 inches this way and then 2.5 inches that way. So 2.25, so 2.25. And I'm going to flip my triangle this direction. And I'm going to go over 2.5 inches. Two and a quarter. And then 2.5 this direction. Same thing. These lines are 2.25. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing over here, 2.25 inches. So now we are going to move to the circle and the arc. So first thing we need to figure out is where this circle is at. And it's going to be halfway of this. So if this is the total height here is 2 inches, halfway through would be 1 inch. So we're going to go up 1 inch. and that's going to be the center of our circle to draw this one right here. Okay, let's go ahead and find that. So the center would be right there at the 1 inch. There is my center point. Notice the size. This big arc here has a radius of 16, which means its diameter is 32. When we convert and we divide this by 16, we get diameter equals to 2 inches for our drawing. So we're going to go ahead and look for our 2-inch template, which is this one right here, 2 inches. And then we need to align our template in the correct manner. This is probably the most difficult part of drawing isometric circles. Do we align it like this? Do we align it like this? Do we align it straight up and down? How would we align this? Here's a trick I always like to use. Treat this as a darts board. So if I was treating this as a darts board, in which direction would I need to throw my dart in order for it to stick on here? So you will notice that if I go up and down, that's not going to stick on there. I need to go ahead and go in this direction here, perpendicular to my circle, in order for my dart to stick there in the bullseye. So what we're going to do is notice that your template has lines that connects these circles. These are the ones that are showing you the orientation of your template. So I'm going to try my best to line up these black lines here with that arrow. So therefore, I know that I need to go ahead and face in this direction. Now all you need to do now is just kind of clean it up, line up this dash with this endpoint here, line up this dash with this endpoint here, and then make sure it goes through the center. So there's a center dot. Just go from that dash all the way to this dash. And if you did it correctly, it should look like this. Same concept for the inner circle. The inner circle is 1 inch, so again, we're going to keep our orientation the same way. And what I like to do for this one here, since notice how we don't have any dashes to help us guide ourselves, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go from this endpoint here that we had already drawn through the center point. I'm going to go ahead and just draw a light line to help me measure where 1 inch is at. And what we can do is we can go ahead and use our triangle to line up our center mark as well. So we can go ahead and do it like this. So now if I use my template, you'll notice how all these dashes here line up. So let's go ahead and draw that. We now need to give this object here some thickness. Notice how we have an arc here, which I already drew those. Now we have another arc over here. What is the thickness here? What's the spacing between this arc and this arc? We can see over here from the top view that we have to go 11/16 of an inch. So the gap there is going to be 11/16. Also the gap here for this one right here is 11/16 as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and we'll measure 11/16 this direction, 11/16 in this direction. So from this corner here, we'll measure 11/16. 11/16 right here. I'm going to go ahead and use my triangle to line up that mark I just made with my drawing. So 11/16 is going to be here in the middle only. So I'm going to go ahead and only draw here in the middle. And then it's going to be 11/16 out from this direction as well. 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to use my triangle, line up my triangle with that mark I made. And then, so same thing with the other side. I'm going to go ahead and measure 11/16 as well. 8, 9, 10, 11. Same thing. We're going to go ahead and line them up. We're going to go this direction. So there's nothing that tells me the length of this line. I could do some math. I could do 52 minus 11 and find out that this right here is going to be 41 inches. Or I can go ahead and understand the concept of isometric and know that this right here, this line is going to be lined up with this line here. The starting point of this arc is going to be matching up with that starting point of that arc. So what I can do is get my triangle, line it up with that endpoint right there. So same thing here with this top part. So everything should line up. So from the top part up here, notice how it also lines up with this right here. Everything should be lined up. I don't need to measure anymore. So now we need to also use this bottom part here to help us line up the bottom part of this arc. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to draw a line. It's going to help me identify the bottom of this arc. So now I need to go ahead and draw a vertical line right here. So now what I need to do is find the middle. The middle is going to be 1 inch. I'll make a mark right there. Okay, so now I know my starting point of the arc, I know the ending point of the arc, and I know the center. So let's go ahead and get my template again. So let's go ahead and do that. So there's the dash, there's the dash touching the end point over here, and then it needs to be going through the middle. So go ahead and draw that circle. And then from this line right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw in this direction here. It's my triangle, and that's going to give me my center mark for my circle. And grab your template. This is going to be the 1 inch. Remember, these lines connecting your circles need to be lined up accordingly. So that's going to be lined up with that. Line up the crosshairs, go up a little bit. So what I need to do now is go ahead and create the same arc here, but on this side. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scoop this line, this center, 11/16 in the other direction over here. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my triangle. I'm going to measure that to be 11/16. Make a little mark there. And that is my center of the second circle here I'm going to draw. So let's go ahead and get the big circle here. Here's the 2-inch circle. Make sure that dash is lined up with the starting point right here. And then make sure that the bottom dash is lined up with the ending point. And then make sure it goes through the center. From this point all the way until it touches over here. We're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to keep the same orientation. We're going to go ahead and we're going to line it up. We're going to start right here. And we're going to go all the way over here to the ending points. Line up my triangle vertically, going through this center here. And then notice how it lines up right here. So I'll make a little mark right there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate my triangle back to 30 degrees. And it's going to go ahead and line up like this. So anything, notice the picture here. Notice how there is a line right here indicating the ending of this arc at the bottom. So the way we do that is 60 degrees and then we do 30 degrees. And then we can start cleaning up our drawing and erasing whatever we don't need. So once your drawing is cleaned up, it should look like this. The only thing we're missing now is this back part here. So how long is that? That's going to be 32. So if we divide that by 16, that equals to 2 inches. But notice how it's a circle. So we're getting our template again. And the size of that circle is 18. Now if I divide 18 by 16, I get, I believe, 1 1/8. So 1 1/8 is what this is going to be in my drawing. That's exactly the circle. That's the size of the circle. And notice how it's attached to this back portion here. So we need to start from the center. So what we need to do is, if we recall, this right here is 2 inches. So we need to find our 1-inch mark, which we had already drawn right there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a line very lightly. Now I need to find the center of this right here. This is, would be 1 1/4 inch. So we need to go ahead and measure 1 1/4 inch. Be right there. Now that we have that mark there, let's go ahead and draw a vertical line straight down from that mark, indicating the center. Go ahead and jump to the next step, which is from the center here. I need to go ahead and go 30 degrees this direction. So from the center, 30 degrees. And how long should this line be? This line should be, if we recall, 2 inches. So let's go ahead and measure that to be 2 inches. So there is a center for my circle. So I need to go ahead Once again, I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical line on that center to help line up my circle when I'm drawing my circle with my template. Let's go ahead and draw a vertical line through that center. And then I'm going to use my circle template here, 1/8. But notice how the circle now is running a different way. Now if I went ahead and shot an arrow, a dart in this direction, it won't hit the bullseye, it would hit the edge of my circle. So how would I get it to hit the bullseye? So again, so if we go ahead and we get it, draw a whole circle, hit the bullseye in this direction here. So we need to go ahead and line up that line in this direction now. So 1 1/8, where's my 1 1/8 mark? Here it is, I found my circle, 1 1/8. And then notice how this line here is lined up in this direction. Same direction as my arrow, in this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and line up these dashes here. Notice how these dashes line up, these dashes here line up here. And then in this case, we're only going to go from this part here, from this dash, over to this dash. Not an entire circle, I'm not going to draw the entire thing. So from this dash here to this dash here, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my triangle. And same thing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a line that's 60 degrees going to the center. So notice how it's there. It goes to the center and it's here. So from those two lines, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give me my endpoints. And then for those endpoints, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a line 30 degrees until it touches the rest of my object here. So same thing here. So there's my line indicating the endpoint of that arc. I'm going to go ahead and go from there all the way straight till I hit an object here. Let's clean up our drawing. So now that our drawing is complete, let's go ahead and dimension some of these features here. So let's check, confirm, make sure our drawing looks correct. Let's say that looks pretty good. Go ahead and dimension some of these things the way we dimension. Once again, we go ahead and get the starting point and the ending point. So this line here starts here, And then we said that was 36. So and always remember your units. Here it doesn't give us any units. We're going to assume it's going to be inches. So again, you can go ahead and you can dimension the circles. Let's go ahead and dimension the circles here. So let's start by doing the one over here on the back. The way I always like to dimension is going with an arrow at an angle. It doesn't really matter. Preferably somewhere around 45 degrees. Make sure it's straight. And you point to the circle. You do a horizontal line. I'm going to use this right here for the horizontal line because my T-square does not line up properly because of the camera. Go ahead and do a horizontal line. Do the little diameter symbol. Diameter here will be 18 inches. So we're going to do the same thing for all our circles. So let's go ahead and do that for all our circles here. So let's go ahead and start with this one right here. So again, we make a line at an angle. We draw an arrow pointing to the arc. We go straight horizontal. And then we go ahead and because this is going to be an arc, we do radius. And this one's going to be 16 inches. Let's go ahead and dimension the other circle, the inner circle. So once again, we go at an angle. We go horizontally. And this is a diameter of 16 inches. So we would go ahead and dimension all the other dimensions as well. But for now, I think you have enough information to complete this assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.